awesome artist. Today we're gonna do a flip through of this book here. It's called Marvel Year by Year, a Visual Chronicle. And every year it gets updated. This one's been out for a while. And it comes in this nice slipcase. With raised characters on it here. And the shiny stuff. And then the back shows like their more old school look. And both of these images were done by Brandon Peterson. And there's two prints in here of the same images, just not shiny, you know, so. But this edition is from 2012, I believe. And I think they come out every year and update them, but I haven't seen one in a while. I even had the previous one from this, but I got gifted a newer one, so then I gave someone else the other one, and they gave it to their significant other. So this literally goes through year by year. See a nice drawing of Stan Lee there from back in the day. Forward by him. But we start at the very beginning, 1939. So when Marvel first came out, it was actually just the title of a comic series. The company that produced Marvel Comics #1 was Timely Publications. And the first characters that premiered were the Human Torch and Namor. And the Human Torch at the time is not the same Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, which I'm sure most of you know. But let's see. And then if you look here too, it gives you actual insight into what was going on during that year outside of comics as well. So it's pretty cool. So it can kind of help inform the reason why certain stories and things were written. And what this book does here too, it like digitally remasters some of the text here so it's easier to read. I'm not going to go in detail over every single little thing, but I highly recommend getting this book for yourself and just spending hours on it. So here's 1940. Still a lot of the standard stuff, a lot of Human Torch is really the main character in here that still stuck around. 1941, March is when Captain America #1 came out. And the thing with Captain America punching Hitler, this was actually before America went to war with Germany. So this was kind of a big deal because, you know, Jack was putting on the page, you know, how he felt we should respond to the Nazi threat. And then we see some other things here. This USA Comics, more Human Torch, Submariner, which is Namor. We see some cartoony stuff here. We see Ziggy Pig and Silly Seal. I guess that's Ziggy there. I don't know much about the character. Whenever I read his name, I always wonder if he's the, if they're referencing him in Bill and Ted. I think it's the scene they're like making Napoleon Bonaparte ice cream or something, and they're like Ziggy Piggy. I don't know if they're just saying that because it's funny or not. Or if they're referencing the comic. But yeah, we see a lot of like cartoony type stuff with the large eyes and slapstick humor. Miss America here. More cartoony stuff. Now, I've heard reference to Millie the Model and Patsy Walker, I believe. I don't know if this is the same as the one who becomes Hellcat or not. And I've heard Millie the Model. I've never read anything with them, though. Yeah, 1945, the Allies celebrate victory in Europe when Nazi Germany surrenders, bringing an end to the war in Europe. So, this covers all that type of stuff. Talks about movies too. 1946, A Wonderful Life. Yeah, I guess that's the main one it mentions here. But I didn't know this, but Jimmy Stewart apparently came back from the war when they filmed it, and he was actually going through some post-traumatic stress on set that was affecting the filming. And I believe some of the reactions in the film were genuine, just him breaking down reactions that they kept in just to give the movie more power. Well, like he loses it with his daughter playing the piano and he yells at her for that. I think that might have been one of the instances where he was stressed out for real. So we see a crime book here, teen comics, kind of in the same vein as like Archie and stuff. Here's another Ziggy Pig. This is kind of crazy how they did this. This is the cover, and they're holding the cover. So that's kind of a cool concept they pulled off way back in the day there. The Two-Gun Kid here. Kid Colt. So we see a lot of westerns here. We see romance books. A lot more of them here. Weird Tales. But yeah, Captain America turned into a horror book for a little bit and was canceled shortly thereafter. Number 74, the end of the road had come for the first wave of Marvel Comics superheroes. Yep. Mark Anthony and Cleopatra here. You see some more war comics here. Apache Kid. So yeah, and then again, they switched to a new title. They became Atlas Comics in 1951. And we see some real photo covers here. This is a classic horror image. I'm not sure. Let's see what it came from. I don't know. It says Venus number 19. Is that the issue? I'm unsure. I don't know much about horror books, any of that either. Journey into Mystery. (1952) Anne Frank's Diary publishes. Still a classic to this day. 1953. Now, I don't think I've actually seen this here. I've seen a couple different Bible comics, even published from Marvel and stuff. I know, I want to say DC did theirs with Joe Kubert. It did like the first couple stories in the Old Testament, like Adam and Eve, and like Noah and Moses and stuff. I don't know about this one though. Bible Tales for Young Folks. So I guess it had 6 issues, maybe because it said it ended in 6 months. James Bond Casino Royale is published. So that's talking about the novel. I don't remember when the first film came out for that. I always love seeing these comic page collages, you know. I don't want to think about them cutting up books to do it though. I think this was all done digitally, but still. The Black Knight. Here we go. Here's the Comics Code of Authority here. 1955. In 1955, in an act of self-defense against the negative publicity about the dangerous effects of comics on children, publishers banded together as the Comics Magazine Association of America and formed the Comics Code Authority. The CCA would review upcoming releases, enforce an agreed-upon code of ethics, and reject or revise material as deemed necessary to ensure good taste. Comics that passed through this censorship crucible were permitted to carry the stamp of the CCA on the cover. The public relations campaign was so thorough that the titles without the seal often did not reach the newsstands, but were returned or pulped unopened. The code was a hardship to some. In 1955, EC Comics, whose titles featured words such as weird and or that were banned by the code, went out of business as a result. However, the code had an upside for Atlas. The demise of other publishers meant less competition on the racks, and it freed up top talent. While the code wrote an end to most shock horror titles, Atlas's books survived by toning down content and stressing twist endings and weird atmospheres rather than outright horror. The few romance comics became more chaste, with a couple often turning away from the camera when they kissed. So, there were things that I personally liked about the Comics Code, but the censorship, not so great. I feel that it is great to guide something to be safe for all ages, but you know, you can, I guess, just throw an all ages thing on the cover and not really have to worry about you know, censoring your stuff or whatever. But I think there's stigma around all ages. It's just like anything else. Like, if a movie is rated G, a lot of people just have the mindset that it's for kids, you know, so it's like they might feel it's like a baby movie or whatever, which is why you've even seen the rise of a lot of like animated films being PG instead of G for things like the thematic elements or a scene of stress or whatever, scenes of violence. Like in Finding Nemo, I think Finding Nemo is PG. So they're like looking for ways to make it sound more grown up so that it doesn't have the G, which turns the older kids off. They're like, oh, this is PG, so it's not G. So here we see some outdated stuff that Marvel doesn't really want to acknowledge much anymore. Here, Yellow Claw. The caricature of an evil Asian person here. I think in the current, like, they did like a current 6-part mini-series about, Marvel's whole history, and they kind of glossed over that, if I remember. So here we see more romance books and stuff. More cartoon stuff. There's the Comics Code up there. do love seeing images just straight up black and white. Sometimes the color that they would put over the top would like hide the fine line details and stuff, so it's nice to be able to see that here. There we go. 1960s. This is known as the Marvel Age. The 60s. Now it's funny, they've got stuff here where they say the first Hulk. But this isn't the Hulk we know. But it's another character with the name of the Hulk. '60s Psycho came out. Let's see what else. Ocean's 11, Spartacus, The Magnificent Seven. Yeah. Here we go, Fantastic Four. But it's still not here yet, is it? It's showing New Breed of Superhero. I guess November 1961 was the first Fantastic Four. And as I've said previously, back in the day, the Fantastic Four was really the book you wanted to premiere your characters in, because they were really building the Marvel Universe from this particular series. There's them getting hit by the cosmic rays here. And they've cleaned up the colors, it looks like. 1962, we have Ant-Man, Hank Pym, Tales to Astonish 27, The Skrulls premiered in Fantastic Four #2. Miracle Man, I guess you don't hear much about him really. The Hulk, May 1962. Spider-Man, August 1962. Doctor Doom, July, premiered in Fantastic Four #5. Thor was in Journey into Mystery #83. Marilyn Monroe dies, 1962. Was this the Andy Warhol exhibition in West Hollywood features Warhol's iconic Campbell's soup canvases? Yep. So that was 1962. First black student at University of Mississippi. After violent clashes and 2 dead, James Meredith is admitted to the University of Mississippi, but due to the threat of violence is accompanied by federal marshals. 1963, March, Iron Man debuts. Tales of Suspense #39. Spider-Man gets his own series. #1 here, 1963 of March. Nick Fury, #1. Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, #1 in May of 1963. The Vulture comes out, Dr. Octopus, Doctor Strange, Baron Mordo. The Avengers, 1963 of September. X-Men as well. Wow. Same month they had 2 teams debut. That's crazy. At the movies, The Pink Panther, The Great Escape, Cleopatra. I like like when they do this too, where they scan the pages and you can see like the, that oxidized paper and stuff. Like I like having how they've reprinted, the graphic novels and stuff with it's remastered, but I do love the charm of them just doing photo scans of the original pages, because it's like you're holding the real thing, even though you're not, but it helps the illusion for me, 1964 Electro debuts. Baron von Strucker, The Blob, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. Captain America is busted out of the ice. Avengers #4, March 1964. Daredevil. I'm surprised he started out with his own book. A lot of heroes didn't have their own books to begin with. And that was April 1964. Black Widow, same time. Green Goblin first appears. Spider-Man #14. Hawkeye, Tales of Suspense 57. You would think he would show up in the Avengers, but no. Kang the Conqueror, Avengers #8. Kraven, Spider-Man 15. Then we have Cap and Iron Man share a book, Tales of Suspense 59. And they do that all the way to issue 100, becomes Captain America Comics with issue 100. You see, he never got a #1 for the current age. Who's here? A Scorpion. Spider-Man #20. Juggernaut, X-Men #12. The changing of the Avengers team is #16. Stiltman, Daredevil #8. Shield comes out, Strange Tales #135. The Sentinels, X-Men 14. Let's see the movies. The Sound of Music from 1965. Dr. Zhivago. What else? You got a nice artist spotlight for Steve Ditko here. Here's Galactus's first appearance here, with different coloring than we're used to. Looks like a Christmas. And then Silver Surfer as well, same issue, issue 48, they both show up. Red Skull returns, Tales of Suspense 79. Black Panther, Fantastic Four 52. That was in July 1966. Claw, Fantastic Four 53. See, this is what I love too. 1966 at the movies, they mentioned the Adam West Batman movie here. Batman, the first full-length adaptation of DC Comics character. Yeah. Man for All Seasons. Thunderbirds are go. Fahrenheit 451. Well, it says at the movies, Dr. Seuss is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Oh, I guess, so that was in the movie theater originally. I don't know about that. It says at the movies, though. I thought it just premiered as a TV special. I'm not sure. I would double check on that. I think maybe it's just referencing it. I'm not sure. What else? Ghost Rider, from February 1967. The Kingpin, Spider-Man number 50. I think it's crazy that he premiered in Spider-Man. I always just think of him as a Daredevil threat, but I know he definitely had a lot to do with Spider-Man, but his main thing, I guess he's had more, brutal run-ins with Daredevil than with Spider-Man. But he's definitely a huge powerhouse as far as, like, getting stuff done pertaining to crime in the whole New York area. Sinister Sentry, not really sure who that is. We have the Spider-Man No More story. That's at issue 50, so the same issue with that is the same issue that Kingpin's in. I didn't realize that. Red Guardian is killed. Avengers 43. It's gonna be in the upcoming Black Widow movie. The original Captain Marvel appears in Marvel Superheroes number 12. See, now this is an instance where the coloring kind of went awry. It's printed slightly off and blurred, you can see. So, in instances like this, it's better to clean it up a little, but that wasn't always the case. They weren't all printed off like that. The Black Knight comes back, Avengers 48. The Death of Professor X, X-Men 42. Silver Surfer gets his own book. This is August 1968. Vision, October 1968. That's Avengers 57. Mephisto's first appearance. Silver Surfer number 3. Franklin Richards is born. Fantastic Four annual number 6. Let's see our movies here. Planet of the Apes, Night of the Living Dead, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Once Upon a Time in the West, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Madam Hydra, first appearance Cap 110, Rick Jones as Cap 110. And that's the storyline where they tried to kill Cap off. That was the Steranko story, I believe. Yeah. After tagging alongside both the Hulk and the Avengers, Rick Jones, the leader of the Teen Brigade, became Cap's official partner in Captain America 110, but they parted company only after 3 issues when Captain America adopted a new secret identity, and artist Jim Steranko left the book. Okay, it says joins Cap. I thought I read that as becomes Cap, but that's, as I was reading, I was like, I don't remember him taking over, but I remember something where Steve faked his own death. Well, he got shot, they showed like a rubber mask pulled out of the harbor with the bullet holes in it for Steve Rogers or something. The Falcon, first appearance, Captain America 117. I used to have that actually. And I got it signed by the was way back in the day, and unfortunately, one of the things I no longer have due to theft. The Prowler. I always thought he was a cool character. He reminded me, like, visually, I see, like, Spawn in the eyes here and stuff. Reminded a lot of that. I was really introduced to him. They had a Spider-Man, like, daily comic strip back in the day that, oh, now I'm blanking. I'm so horrible. John Romita Sr., I believe, did all the artwork for, and Stan Lee wrote it, if I remember correctly. And I remember there was a story arc with the Prowler in there, and my brother had like a big collected book of the strips, and that was one of the early arcs in the comic strip, was the Prowler. Nice Steranko cover here, I believe. Yeah. All about the design and the funky illustration there. 1970s. The end of an era. So let's see what it says. The comic scholars generally refer to as the 1950s through 60s, the end of the birth of the superhero genre as the Silver Age comics. In 1970, this age began the end with the departure of artist Jack Kirby. Kirby have revolutionized comic book art through the 1960s, and together with editor Stan Lee had created scores of characters. In 1970, Kirby left Marvel for DC Comics, marking the end of the most creative period in Marvel history. The year also saw the cancellation of X-Men due to poor sales. Written by Roy Thomas with art by Neil Adams, this series was revived as a reprint, but there would be no new stories for half a decade. Despite these dramatic developments, Marvel began to move in new directions with Conan the Barbarian, having licensed the comic rights for the author Robert E. Howard's Hero. Indeed, Conan would become one of Marvel's greatest successes over the next 2 decades. And I was never huge on Conan, but I know a lot of people who love his books and a lot of like the monster stuff and everything too. But I've just always stayed in the lane of superhero books, really. X-Men was canceled at issue number 66. Fantastic Four reached 100 in July. 100 issues. The death of Captain Stacy here. Spider-Man at 90. Here we go. Here's Spider-Man number 96. This was the first issue of Spider-Man to not have the comics code stamp on it, where they showed drugs, and they addressed them as not a good thing, but the fact that they're visually shown and mentioned went against the code here. So it says in 1971, the U.S. government's Department of Health, Education, and Welfare sent a letter to Marvel editor Stan Lee asking him to use his comics to warn his young audience about the rising use of dangerous, addictive drugs among their generation. Stan Lee agreed to do so, but there was a problem. In the 1950s, the comics industry had instituted the Comics Code Authority as a means of self-censorship, and the Comics Code forbade any mention of drugs for any purpose. So Stan Lee and Marvel's publisher Martin Goodman daringly decided to publish their anti-drug storyline, beginning in issue 96 of Spider-Man, lasting for 3 issues without approval of the code. In this story, scripted by Stan Lee and drawn by Gil Kane, businessman Norman Osborn once again reverted to his alternate personality as a criminally insane Green Goblin and battled Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Osborn's son Harry, who is Peter's best friend and college roommate, became hooked on pills and had been hospitalized. In the climax, Spider-Man forced the Goblin to confront what had happened to his son. This anti-drug story won widespread acclaim, and as a result, the comics code was later revised with restrictions on drugs and vampires, ghouls, and werewolves as partially lifted. This gave American comics, including Marvel, greater creative freedom. So yeah, it's kind of a bold thing too, because if you remember what I read about the code is there was a danger of your book being, never put on the stands, sent back and pulped. So they really took a shot there. Could you imagine having those issues of Spider-Man destroyed? That'd make him pretty valuable though. But, they still are in their own right. 1971 at the movies, The French Connection, Dirty Harry, Clockwork Orange. The Schemer. I don't know if I honestly know who that is off the top of my head, unless he was repurposed. Here's the reimagining of Beast with hair. That was March 72 in Amazing Adventures number 11. Dracula gets his own book in April. Luke Cage premieres in June. Cap versus Cap. I'm not sure why that was considered a big thing here. I've read every issue of Cap from the Tales of Suspense through the current. So I haven't read all of the original stuff from the 40s. I've read maybe 20 or so issues, but I've read all of the Captain America stuff in particular. But I don't remember this jumping out as something important. Man-Thing premieres in Adventure into Fear number 10. The movies, 1972, The Godfather, Deliverance, Cabaret. The Friends of Old Marvel, Foom, is a magazine. It premiered February 1973. Marvel launched its first official fan magazine. Let's see, it's got another big blurb here. I guess, do they all do, don't they? Some of them stand out to me more than others. Yeah, so horror. The horror books really came out Marvel 1972. The newer ones, anyway. So, Marvel's turning point. When did the Silver Age of Marvel truly end? Was it when Jack Kirby left the company in 1970? Or was it when Stan Lee stopped writing comic books on a regular basis in 1972? It was difficult for comic book scholars and fans to pinpoint the answer, but there was one monumental event in 1973 that made it clear that if the Silver Age had not already ended, it was really over now. It was not about a real person leaving Marvel. It was the departure of a fictional character. In June 1973, in the pages of Spider-Man 121, Peter Parker's love, Gwen Stacy, died. From the beginning of Marvel's superhero renaissance in the 60s, Stan Lee had made it clear that in the Marvel Universe, life was not always fair and the innocent sometimes suffered. In Spider-Man's origin story, his Uncle Ben was murdered. Since then, Betty Brant's brother, Bennett, Daily Bugle reporter Fred Foswell and Captain George Stacy had all died in Stan Lee's Spider-Man stories. Nevertheless, readers were shocked when Spidey's own leading lady, Gwen Stacy, met her tragic end. In 1994, in their series Marvels, writer Kurt Busiek and painter Alex Ross claimed Gwen's death was a turning point in Marvel history. Happy endings were no longer guaranteed. Superhero comics had lost their innocence. So that was Spider-Man 121. That came out in June. There's the cover there. Yeah, this was a period they were really trying different things. We got a zombie book here, Son of Satan, Shang-Chi, a lot of really different things here. At the movies, 1973, The Exorcist, Mean Streets, Little Italy. Is this the death of Vision here? The Punisher premiered Spider-Man 130. Hulk. Incredible Hulk, Wolverine's first appearance, Hulk 181. Giant Size X-Men #1. That was the start of the modern X-Men team as we know them. Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, Warpath, Cyclops. I think Banshee is somewhere on there too. Jean Grey. I think it's cool too when you notice on the cover, like it shows the old versions, the old team, and they're bursting through with the new team. And they're drawn by two different artists, if I remember too. So I have to pick up the pace a little bit. Unfortunately, my camera can only store so much. My cell phone camera, rather. But, oh, this is nice here. But yeah, I highly recommend find a copy of it. Find a newer one, I guess, that has up through the current year. Or I think it's 2019. I don't think they have. Like, they wait. 1980s. Nice version of Wolverine there. She-Hulk #1, February 1980. Cap for president. Elektra's death, Daredevil 181, April 1982. Secret Wars, May 84. 85, the year I was born here. I keep seeing this at Half Price Books. I need to pick it up. It's an X-Men book written and drawn by tons of different artists and writers, and the proceeds went to recovery in Africa. Mary Jane and Peter Parker marry, the Spider-Man annual number 21. I always thought it was interesting whenever they would have big events happen in annuals and not in the regular ongoing storyline. As I don't 100% recall, but I think the annuals were harder to find on your newsstand than the regular ongoing title. Seemed like half the time I bought an annual, it was in a comic shop and not on the rack. Yeah, 1989 here at the movies. See, they mention Batman. Tim Burton's Dark Vision of Gotham City features Jack Nicholson's Electric Joker. I just thought it's so fun that they include stuff like that. I'm sure they mentioned Superman and all that too when those came out. Cable's first appearance, March 1990, New Mutants 87. Todd McFarlane's own Spider-Man title. Weapon X. See, I didn't even know this was a key issue here. I can't pronounce that, appears. Hulk number 381. I had this signed by Peter David, and I gave it to someone else who wasn't able to get a book signed by him. Like, they were a huge Peter David fan, and I think they were volunteering at the show or something like that, and I gave him that book to get signed. Something along those lines. Infinity Gauntlet, July 1991. X-Men number 1. The infamous pin-up. That, yeah. Maximum Carnage. Alex Ross's Marvels. Oh, I was about to say, why is DC in here? There's a JLX. They had a crossover, I guess. It's like, that looks like Impulse there. Yeah, the Marvel vs. DC crossover in 1996 in February. Here's the, what do they call it? Heroes Rebirth, right? Or Heroes Reborn, okay. And then when they came back from all that, it was Heroes Return. I guess that was in 97. I could have sworn it was 96, though. No, even later. 98, really? I don't remember that. But that's when I officially started to buy Captain America, right here. Ongoing every month. Ever since then, I bought Captain America. That's January 1998. Mark Waid and Ron Garney's run. It's good stuff. Marvel Knights relaunches Daredevil here. Written by Kevin Smith. Drawn by Joe Quesada. David Mack. Eventually, the whole Alex Malev and Bendis. And then we have Straczynski's Spider-Man here. 1999. I think it's Straczynski, right? I can't see. I think it's Straczynski, though. With John Romita Jr., of course. And I love their run. But everyone hated how it ended with the whole erasing the marriage and all that. But I don't know if that was 100% that writer's chosen ending, or it was like a lead-in to Brand New Day or whatever. I mean, I haven't personally talked with them, but everything up to that was great. I really enjoyed it with Ezekiel and all that stuff. Punisher, welcome home, Frank, I think it was called. This was a great arc here. Ultimate Spider-Man. I was never huge on it, but a lot of people loved it, obviously. October 2000. Yeah, Straczynski. Did he start on 30 though? I thought he started right at the beginning. I don't know. I could have sworn he did. But yeah, this is his first issue, so maybe Romita was already on it. This is a mix here, I think, of David Mack painting over Quesada. Ultimate X-Men, February 2001. The New X-Men, July 2001. Elektra, I need to find one of these covers here. Greg Horn is going to be at Emerald City. And, you know, I don't remember much about him really, but I know that he did these covers here, and then he did like some for Mystique, and I want to say for the White Queen too. But yeah, I remember seeing like the first 6 or so issues, and definitely iconic covers. Alias, November of 2001. Wolverine Origins, October. Ultimate Avengers, March 2002. Truth, this is a story about the African American Captain America, lone survivor test subject. Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's Hulk Gray. Venom Carnage was great. This is one of the first trades I got when I went to college, as well as Astonishing X-Men. Good stuff. One of my favorite modern X-Men runs. Captain America, Steve Epting, Ed McGuinness, Ed Brubaker. Wow, Ed McGuinness. Although Ed McGuinness did do the Death cover variant. Steve Epting and Ed Brubaker. What a great team. House of M. More Cassidy, X-Men from Astonishing. Ultimate Cap. 2006. Yep, this is all Civil War. The death of Captain America. And there's that Ed McGuinness cover there. That's the one. I was subscribed to Captain America at the time, and my book came like way late, and then it was that copy. The controversial One More Day. I love the webbing detail that Quesada put here on Spidey going off on Iron Man. I like the covers a lot too. such a big deal, a huge mystery at the time. Remember, that was the year I attended my first Comic-Con with C2E2. I think that was in 2009. And they were talking about the big reveal of Red Hulk coming up. And I got a fun little Red Hulk guitar pick from Jeff Loeb. Obama and Spider-Man number 583, March 2009. Dark Avengers, 2010s. A versus X, 2012. And this was really the last big Marvel event I really enjoyed. Jason Aaron and Asab Ribic's Thor. The start, like I said, was amazing. First 20 or so issues of Thor. And of course, the book ends with what was one of the most controversial moments of 2012. Doc Ock switched bodies with Peter Parker. So Doc Ock's mind was in here, Peter Parker's was in here, and he was the superior Spider-Man for about a year or so. And then this body went away. I don't remember if he officially died, but not much to work with for sure. And then like his conscience was contained and eventually he got back in there, but so many people upset. And I can't blame him. And then the rest is all index here. And then it shows the prints in the back. So there's the one. And there's the modern day. With the black and white image there. Alright, well that's gonna do it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see. And as always, you have a super slumber. Thanks. Bye.